and it tended to get overlooked amongst the bigger, brasher, and it must be admitted in the case of musicals like On the Town, more inventive musicals of that time. Yet this film, the next to last, made by Judy at her old studio, retains an old-fashioned charm some of the other musicals that received the critical praise in their day now lack. And part of this is the plot itself, which was first filmed as a vehicle for Margaret Sullivan and James Stewart in 1939 in a film called The Shop Around the Corner, and was later in 1963 to be used as the basis for a popular Broadway musical called She Loves Me, and that was due to be filmed at one stage, but it never eventuated. The setting of the story was originally Budapest, but for this film, the place is now turn-of-the-century Chicago, and the stars Judy Garland and Van Johnson, with some fine scene stealing done by both Esed Sakal, whom you've seen in many films, and Buster Keaton in his last film for his old studio, where so many years before he'd been a great star. For music, there are two great Garland numbers, I Don't Care and Play That Barbershop Chord, as well as other popular standards. And for film buffs, the little girl in the final scene of this movie is no less a star than Liza Minnelli, making her movie debut.
That's a dream of romance, or the scene where the villain is mean. That's entertainment.
Hello, welcome to our movie tonight, a movie called Summer Stock, which is a theatrical term used in America for what one might call in Australia provincial or touring theatre or summer theatre. As a matter of fact, the film was called If You Feel Like Singing in Britain, which happens to be the title of one of the songs that the late Harry Warren, who died just last week in his late 80s, wrote for this particular show. It was the third and last film in which Gene Kelly and Judy Garland appeared as a team, the other two being Kelly's debut film For Me and My Gal and Vincent Minnelli's The Pirate. And it was also, sadly, Judy's last film for MGM. Her personal problems had finally caught up with her. She'd been unable to do Annie Get Your Gun, which the studio had purchased particularly for her, and after 3 months in a Boston clinic, she returned to the screen for this, her last movie at MGM. She is, you'll notice, plumper in this film than ever before on the screen, but the shooting schedule on the film extended so long that her weight does vary considerably throughout the movie, so that by the time the Get Happy sequence was staged, she was as slim and as graceful as she was ever to be on the screen. Gene Kelly does a delightful solo dance, the story's bright, the cast, which includes Phil Silvers, Eddie Bracken, Marjorie Main and Gloria DeHaven as Judy's sister, is an excellent one, and it's an entertaining musical which has for its theme, there's no business like show business. So as the song says, let's get on with the show, which in this case is Summer Stock. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope it was spent in healthier surroundings than mine. I spent most of it at the film festival, which is why perhaps the eyes look a little redder than usual today. Very fine film festival, incidentally. Somebody said to me when they read of some of the subjects and themes of the festival, what a depressing experience it must have been. What's entertaining about that? But of course, the truth is, I suppose, that entertainment also means being absorbed and interested, and indeed most of the films at the festival were very good. But it is nice, I must admit, also to see entertainment of the old style, and that's what we've got for you today, which is a musical that MGM made in the late 40s. It was originally a play that was written somewhere back in Germany in 1911, then transformed into a Broadway hit in the early 40s for Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontaine, and then became this musical. It was one of the teamings of Garland and Gene Kelly, and perhaps not the most successful musical in its day. It was a rather innovative musical, and done with a great deal of style, but perhaps not what the public were expecting. Perhaps they wanted a more romantic story in those days, who knows. But now it looks a great movie, full of colour, full of movement, and with one of Cole Porter's most attractive scores. I think you'll notice, and perhaps we notice it more now than we did in the 40s, that Judy Garland at this stage of her career acts with a certain edginess that maybe was symptomatic of some of the problems she was having at that time. But there's no doubt that when she really lets her hair down in this movie, as she does in the Mac the Black number, for example, she was a great artist that really leapt out from the screen at you. No wonder she was so popular in those days. And of course, Kelly, with his athletic dancing, is just the antithesis to a degree of Fred Astaire's grace and style, I suppose, but a very fine performer and a very interesting one to watch, and certainly one of the great musical talents of that time too. So I hope you enjoy our movie today. It's one you can just sit back and really enjoy in the old sense of the word, and I'm sure you will. Today, which is Easter Parade. Now, one of my favourite musicals from the 40s. A lot of those musicals of that time, as you probably realise, have dated somewhat, but I'm happy to say this one hasn't, for a variety of reasons, I suppose. First of all, it's set back in time a bit, which is always a help. And then the songs of Irving Berlin, just that sort of song, they're given that sort of treatment that never dates them. And apart from anything else, the musical stars two of my favourites anyway, I hope yours, Fred Astaire and Judy Garland. And when you have a look at this film and today, just notice the way that Judy gets into the dance sequences. She wasn't just a singer or a nice comic actress, and the beauty of her role in this film is that shows her singing at her best, I think, and her dancing, and a nice comic role with a little bit of drama as well to everything, as a matter of fact. This is the film in which she started, which brought Fred Astaire back to the screen actually. She started to make it with Gene Kelly. There was an accident, and Gene broke an ankle, I think. Fred Astaire, who'd given up films, came back from retirement to be in this film, thanks to everybody. The songs that he has to do, the routines that he has to do, are amongst some of the best and the most imaginative. That's a lovely sequence there, Drum Crazy, which is his solo number at the beginning of the film. I hope you enjoy the movie, and be with us tomorrow for an all-star cast in the film The Wrong Box. But at the moment, it's music and Easter Parade. Well, as you see, we are, over the next couple of weeks, having on this program a tribute to the sort of ladies that I liked when I started going to the movies more years ago than I care to recall. People who were, I suppose, in the old sense of the word, really stars, in the fact that they were built up by their studios into images of beauty and images often of perfection that were probably quite impossible for many people to live up to. And the trials and tribulations and tragedies of a lot of those people are very well known to us now. But nevertheless, the films they made were probably some of the most enjoyable movies that have ever been made in the Hollywood period. It's now no longer the old Hollywood, of course. It's broken up into all sorts of independent companies, with only a very few of the great names of the old film studios still existing. But we're starting off anyway with a favourite of mine. Always was, and I guess always will be. Though she made many bad films, she made some of the most delightful musicals also of the period, and that's Judy Garland. We're presenting the Harvey Girls today, and we've got a photograph of Judy in black and white, I must say, from this particular film. But it's a delightful musical in my opinion. It's got a very good score from Harry Warren and Johnny Mercer. It allows Judy Garland to show much of the humour that she was able to project when the times were right for her. And the times were very right for her at this time. Only just 2 years before, she had met Vincent Minnelli when he directed her in Meet Me in St. Louis, a film that probably is the greatest thing that Judy Garland and Minnelli ever did. And she was at her peak at that particular time. We're going to be showing that film next year, I trust, Meet Me in St. Louis. We've got the rights to it now. And it's been a long time since it's been on television. But when she made The Harvey Girls just 2 years later, the same year, 1946, her daughter Liza was born, her marriage was going well, and she was at her peak in this. And I'm sure that you'll agree when you see her do such songs as the Hutchison Topeka Santa Fe, and also, of course, the most delightful sequence in this film, which she shares with Sid Charisse and Virginia O'Brien, It's a Great Big World. In the film also is John Hodiak as her leading man. You can see him on the left there with two far better known people, Spencer Tracy and James Stewart, in a minor MGM film called Malaya. And Hodiak was one of those people who came to the movies. He was born in 1914 in Pittsburgh, of Ukrainian parents, I think, and he came to the movies because he was always a movie fanatic, and never, according to his wife, Anne Baxter, had a great opinion of himself as an actor. Yet, for the time that he was at MGM, which was something like about 9 years, from the 40s to the early 50s, appeared quite well in any number of excellent films. Died of a heart attack at the age of 41, I think, somewhere about 1953, and quite an unexpected loss, as a matter of fact, at that time. And the other lady in this film is Angela Lansbury. And Angela Lansbury comes from a theatrical background, as you probably know. She could appear quite glamorous, as she does there in the Red Danube with Peter Lawford, or as just a few years later she appeared with James Garner, and looking anything but glamorous. Primarily a character actress, but a very fine one indeed, and in later years one of the great Broadway stars. When she made The Harvey Girls, she was the daughter of actress Moyna McGill, who took her children, which consisted of Angela and twin brothers, Bruce and Edgar, who were both in the business, and she brought them out of wartime England into Hollywood. And not long after she came to America, she was tested at MGM for the role of the Cockney girl in Gaslight, which was a dramatic and dynamic debut for a girl who was only about 19 or 20 at that time. And she wasn't much older, really, when she appeared as the dance hall queen in this particular movie. Not her own voice, by the way, was used in this film, The Harvey Girls. Okay, well, I think we've spoken enough about the film. It's about time you had a chance to see it. Don't forget that over the next fortnight and a bit, we will be showing a number of films featuring these great ladies of the silver screen. But for the moment, it's the MGM crew and The Harvey Girls. I know you'll enjoy it. Melbourne, and back to the glamour of the old MGM. This film was originally released in 1941. Seems a heck of a long time ago now, actually. But when it came out, Judy Garland was on the way up still, not right at the peak of her career, although she'd already made, of course, The Wizard of Oz, which made her a world celebrity. There was the young Lana Turner, probably one of the loveliest of the stars that came around at that time, and certainly one of the longest lasting. And then the beautiful Hedy Lamarr. Three lovely women. Hedy Lamarr's career, I suppose, less effective than some of the others, but certainly for that period of time, also one of the loveliest women to grace the screen. And a lavish production with two directors, one doing the story and Busby Berkeley, no less, doing the musical numbers. It's a story that, when you look at it now, could be told with far more realism today, but for the period it seemed pretty realistic, and it's very enjoyable. It has that built-in nostalgia of seeing all these people in their prime, or at the beginnings of their career, if you like, plus a wonderful supporting cast that includes one of my favourite old character actors, Edward Everett Horton. You'd know him, of course, through all the Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire movies he appeared in. And you could go right through this cast and name many of them. Some great tunes came from it, including You Stepped Out of a Dream, but basically it's the whole concept of the old glamour that keeps this film alive. I hope you enjoy it, and at the end of the film, if we've got time, we'll be interviewing Sissy Spacek.
Broadway Melody of 1938. Wow. Welcome to another movie in the Bill Collins movie collection. First there was Broadway Melody of 1929, then Broadway Melody of 1936, and then Broadway Melody of 1938. What a delightful show, put together with great skill by director Roy Del Ruth and a lot of wonderful people involved. Count your lucky stars, it said on the poster. What a lucky stars to be together in this delightful entertainment. It says also on this brochure, a film that for years to come will bring ecstatic memories to you and those paying guests. And here it is, now with us still, and what a delight. Eleanor Powell and Robert Taylor. Eleanor Powell, who didn't want to be a movie star, priced herself so highly and then found that MGM wanted her very much indeed. And what a delightful, charming woman she is, and can she dance up a storm. Her leading man, Robert Taylor, young, handsome, and also very charming. You're going to like Robert Taylor with Eleanor Powell in Broadway Melody of 1938. Eleanor Powell with two wonderful dancers. One of them is quite unique, Buddy Ebsen, way back in 1937-38. You'll love Buddy Ebsen. George Murphy, destined to become a US Senator, and also an Academy Award winner for his services to the movie industry. He and Eleanor danced to I'm Feeling Like a Million, which would have to be one of the most exciting things you'll ever see on the screen if you love dancing. Billy Gilbert, he actually posed for Sneezy in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And with him, the singer Igor Gorin, who has the first number in the film. And now, Raymond Walburn, a top character actor of yesteryear, with Binny Barnes, quite a phenomenal lady from Great Britain. And here are two people who are show business legends. They were when the film was made, and they still are. Sophie Tucker, the famous Red Hot Mama, the last of the Red Hot Mamas, in one of her rare screen appearances, and Judy Garland in her first MGM feature movie. Judy Garland became a star with Broadway Melody of 1938, and following her appearance in this, Arthur Freed, who collaborated on the songs for the film, decided he wanted to find the right vehicle for Judy Garland. And he almost immediately set upon The Wizard of Oz. I'm sure you're going to like Broadway Melody of 1938.
Garland, and her name was not yet above the titles, as it was so soon to happen for her at MGM. But in this case, MGM knew they had a talent and a star on their hands and were developing that star. She has plays two roles in this particular film, one the mother of herself. It's very sentimental film indeed, but the songs are spirited, and that personality that Judy Garland had was quite unique. Let's get into it. I hope you enjoy it.